He is from the far side of the world. He played at the biggest Unreal Tournament Cups worldwide. New Zealand's own legend. Fast, precise, unforgiving. This is eVeNfloW.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome again so soon to another one of these player podcasts. The guest that we have today is a legend in their own right. I'm so happy to introduce them. We have eVeNfloW. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Nick, I'll call you that, but go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, hi. I'm Nick, eVeNfloW, from the other side of the world. From most people that probably still play this game, New Zealand. Went to quite a few WCGs, few US World Cups, did some stuff outside of that for UT, and played a lot obviously back in the Australia New Zealand scene back in the day. Played UT1, as I call it, everybody calls it UT99 now. 2K3, 2K4, UT3, and yeah, that was pretty much it for it before UT was dropped. Played some other games a little bit competitively back then, and nowadays probably a bit more of a casual. But yeah. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So just to kind of, I think that you had mentioned prior to us starting this recording that you have seen a couple of the interviews, but for anybody who's new, who's tuning in and following this, I'm going to start this the same way that I start every single one of these interviews with this starter question. What are your first memories of Unreal Tournament? What was the game like for you? How did you come across it? Was there somebody else that was playing it? Talk to me about that. Set me the time, the location. How old are you? Paint that picture for me.
So I must have been 15. So, and I had been playing at that point. I had a PC, but I had been playing RTS. So I was playing Command and Conquer at the time online on the old Westwood World, Worldwide Ladder things. And FPS games is, I'd only played Shadow Warrior and maybe GoldenEye at that stage on N64. Right, so I had no real experience, no Quake World, no Quake, none of that online stuff. And I went to our local game store back in the day, and they just had it on a PC there. And I happened to walk in. I can't even remember what I was in there for, and I played that. I couldn't afford it, and so I got a copy of it somehow back in the day on a 56K modem. I think
how did that happen?
4 days to download. I did buy it after that. But yeah, so I think it was probably about that wasn't like immediately after. That was some time after, and so that was late 2000, I think, was when I actually picked up. And so that was my first ever. I had 56K modem. 200 ping to local is that was my first ever. Memories of it.
I had first played it at a friend's house, and it was one of those low-grav Instagib maps in a giant bedroom or a giant bathroom or something like that. And I was like, what is this game? And so, I very quickly got hooked. But I was actually going to ask you that question. How long did it take between you downloading this thing and you becoming invested in it? Because I feel like for so many players, there's something about the mechanics, there's something about the movement, there's something about this game that just hooks like many other games fail to do.
I don't think it was too long. I was still playing Command & Conquer quite seriously back then. I think because I actually managed to win the world ladder 3 times, 3 different months.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
And I wouldn't say I'm any good at RTS because everybody was terrible back then. I happened to be the better of the terrible players.
Right, sure.
back then. So I think I was still kind of playing that semi, up until about, I don't know, I think I only started around November 2000, right? So it must have been but as soon as I started playing it, I was hooked. It was, it was a different.
So I know that you're in New Zealand, and you're native to New Zealand. I take it from the accent and from where you are. Was there much of a local scene there, or how did you come to play this? Was it in cafes, or what was your story with that?
I just played from home.
Okay.
So, and then I guess I just I didn't even know what ping was back then. Put it that way, right? So I was joining 400 ping servers, all sorts of things. I had no idea, and eventually. I don't even know how I figured it out. I was like, oh, this is laggy. Honestly, I probably didn't know register lag back then. I was such a noob, right?
Right.
Buddy.
You and me
the
both.
way it was played. Yeah. And then eventually I joined local servers. And then, I was familiar, I'd used IRC. So I was familiar to chat and, talking to people. And I think I just obviously made some friends and stuff around. It's like, eventually it did come that there was a LAN in Auckland from the locals. And there was some forums and stuff. And I went to that. And I can't, looking back on it, I can't speak enough about the people that were in the scene back then because they were hosting LANs. It was all very they were grungy metal guys. They were the nerdy guys. There were the church goers. There were the full plethora of humanity was playing Unreal Tournament. We'd all get together and go sit in a room, 40 of us and smell terribly, massive CRT screens, from all walks of life. Somehow made it work,
Within that, I have a question because I've asked other people this, and maybe you have a clear memory of this, maybe you don't. Was there a point where you started to recognize, oh, I'm good at this? I'm better at this than a lot of other people around me? Because I feel like for me, that was a big confidence boost, and it made me actually get better at the game. Once I started to realize that I was good, it reinforced itself, and I started to get better and better. Did you have a similar experience, or what was that like for you?
I was a pretty confident person, so I probably thought it really. I don't really remember, right?
Sure.
But, I guess I'm hyper competitive, in a lot of ways. So, and even with myself, I'm not just talking about other people. So you put other people into a scenario, and it just multiplies it. So, I knew I wasn't the best in New Zealand or even close, right? At that stage, one of the. I don't know if you know, but Unreal Tournament at the start actually had the Unreal Tournament Cups were actually delivered around the world, and there was a local, land. So there was a guy that had won that. There was another person in the scene, that were really good, and some clans that were way better. So, I think that literally the first time I knew I was probably not just pub good, but good competitively in duels, because we didn't even really duel back then. We just played CTF or free for all, that sort of thing. And maybe I topped the servers in CTF and that kind of stuff, but I think it was only literally at the qualifiers for WCG 2001 was the first time that I actually beat everybody, and I was probably third, or it would have been expected to be third seed there.
Yeah.
So that was probably the first time where I was like, oh, okay, well that proves it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it in a weird way, it's like you leapfrogged over being the big fish in a small pond and went directly to the big pond and found out that you're pretty good there too. I will point out, and I'm sure the people who are watching this have noticed the massive WCG 2002 text in the background here. We have an oversized novelty check. And I'm super...
I thought it was a bit of fun to show to the camera.
Yeah, for sure.
Not many people would think, but this is
for sure.
The legitimate check they actually handed out on stage back in 2002.
If for no other reason, how many people actually have novelty-sized checks in their house these days? All right? It's still a great prop no matter what. But I do want to talk about that era because if I'm recalling correctly, you're one of the only people to have beaten GitzZz, who is largely regarded as one of the top players of this game of all time, in duel at these tournaments. What was that like? Talk me through that experience.
I'd probably have to go back a little bit, back to the first tournament, because when I went to the first tournament was, I went there and I definitely was better than what I displayed in the tournament. I can't remember if I got knocked out in the groups. I think I got knocked out in the groups in that one, but I went there with a ball mouse, and I had been playing on Windows XP at home. We went to Windows 2, whatever it was, 2000, and so I went from mouse acceleration to no mouse acceleration. I had no idea. right? So this is how, like, it was my first year of playing these games, right? I still had a ball mouse, and so I couldn't turn. My mouse would skip, like, so it would actually not physically be able to turn the character. So I had to change my sensitivity to like 50% faster for the tournament.
Oh, wow.
Not ideal, right?
No, yeah, not before a major competition, no.
And so I was playing, and I played as much as I possibly could in just like in the practice rooms with people, and I made good friends with quite a few of the guys, and like we were like, actually it was pretty amazing, like the group of guys there that was in that first year. And on the day of the final, Excess Pain was playing GitzZz in that first one, and I beat Excess Pain that morning. And that's when I knew, and then when GitzZz beat him, and I was like, oh, the skill level wasn't that different, right? When I was looking at the game and then how Excess Pain played versus me and then how I played against GitzZz, and I was like, that just gave me confidence. So I went into that following year thinking, if I get GitzZz, it doesn't worry me, it doesn't faze me.
Right.
And I didn't have any other reference point from there. And so maybe some ways that was great that I was insulated from the rest of the world. I could only play locally, which wasn't great because there was probably one other player in New Zealand on a reasonable ping that I could actually play that gave me that challenge.
Sure.
And he didn't play that much. He got the WoW bug. Bye.
Yeah. So I fell victim to it too.
On high pings and all sorts of things. So by the time I went to that tournament, though, so the first tournament also I used WASZ, like the Z key.
Yeah.
So that was what was the first game store. So I couldn't even dodge backwards properly. So by the time I went back the next year, I'd gone to WASD. I had a proper mouse. I knew what I was going into. I got the right monitor that was going to match it. So I was pretty confident in my skills going into that tournament that at least I'll have the best showing of myself. So when I got up against GitzZz, there was no nerves, there was nothing like, and it was only an interview that I rewatched recently, kind of trying to remember things for this interview, which was with Thorin, and he was discussing this. He said, I didn't, like, a lot of people thought like they were nervous, and I could tell they were nervous playing me, but eVeNfloW wasn't one of them, basically. And maybe it was the other side of the world thing, right? I don't know. So, and obviously I ended up beating him in that tournament. Then he ended up beating me in the lower bracket again. But so it was fun. Like I just liked to compete against the best players in the world.
Yeah, for sure. And you're what,
pretty cool.
17 at the time?
I think I turned 18 at that tournament. I think it was because I have some photos of this. I don't know if I should share it for the thing, but there's a couple of Lauki Rocks and I very drunk afterwards. But because I won this much money, we went to a Korean store and we bought. That was a lot of money in US dollars compared to the Korean dollar. We bought the whole fridge of soju and took it back to the players. So all of the Quake names back from there, like it was like 0-4. All those guys and like all the UT guys, we got absolutely.
That's
my
great, man.
Birthday.
That's great.
My 18th birthday.
Yeah. Oh man, what a fantastic birthday and what a great memory. I did, Court. I know. I'll let everybody know who's watching this. Court was actually scheduled originally to do this interview, but unfortunately he was unable to follow through at the very end. He had some other things come up, and I'm more than happy to step in because I'm a big TDM fan, and when he said that he was going to be doing this interview, I thought, well, that makes sense. You also have a pretty strong CTF background in 2004, and I'm more than happy to talk to you about that as well. But I've always been a TDM player, and so that's how I knew you. That's how I knew your name. I had gone back and watched some of these demos, way back in the day when I was, I think you're probably a couple years older than I am. I was in freshman year of high school, I believe, when I had seen some of these demos and watched some of this stuff from World Cyber Games. And I was new enough to the game at the time that I didn't really quite understand what it was that I was watching. You know what I mean? Like, where you don't really understand the skill that's on display until you can appreciate what the minutia of it and figure out what's going on. But when I went back later, actually, after having learned how to play the game, I started to appreciate much more what was on display in front of me. That's just an aside, but I do want to talk about your CTF days because It's not often, at least in this podcast series, that I'm talking to someone who's got such a wide background. So what drew you to CTF away from TDM? Was it just the fact that it was competitive, or was it something about the actual mechanics of CTF?
I think it was the scene in New Zealand, Australia. We didn't play TDM. Like, there wasn't much interest in TDM, and maybe there was reasons for that. Is that the pub games? I remember they were like 8 versus 8. It was like 16 player servers. It wasn't 5 versus 5. It was very, much more fun. I think in general there was probably we had a quite close knit community. There might have been 400, 500, 600, 700 players online. Mm-hmm. Keeping in mind back then, Unreal Tournament was played offline way more. Because there wasn't many games. Yeah, right. In comparison, I think UT scene could have been 10, 20, 30 fold that, 50 fold that offline in New Zealand. Right, we have no idea. Like, we heard stories from universities that are having like bigger lands than we would have.
Yeah,
playing UT and Quake and stuff. But so CTF was kind of like the main mode that the community played. So TDM was something I might have played. There was one tournament that I actually ran for the community, and that we did 2 maps of TDM and 2 maps of CDF. And that was just like to try to get people to play TDM. Yeah. But then there was such a massive skill gap that when it came to like pure fragging, not just CTF, it wasn't that fun for most people. There might have been like 2 teams that were actually competitive. Yeah. And that might have been like kind of our fault that we said, like, we had a CTF, to put it this way, we had a CTF game where we had 5 WCG representatives playing on my team. So myself, Snoop,
fair and balanced. And balanced.
So that might have been.
Yeah. No.
That was by the end of it.
Look, we all do things that we look back on and say maybe that wasn't the best decision. I did want to ask though. So, if am I understanding correctly that you almost exclusively played CTF in the 2K4 series and not in the 1999 series? Is that correct?
I only played CTF in UC 99. The only time I dueled was at WCG. I only prepared for duels for WCG. I might have played 10% of what the guys like GitzZz and Stryfeus and stuff played. Yeah. In terms of deathmatch. I played CTF.
It's weird because I almost wonder if that gave you, and I'm not going to call it like beginner's luck, because clearly you're very skilled and you went on to win, tens of thousands of dollars, and like you're a very competitive person, as you said yourself. But I wonder if it gave you almost an unpredictability in duels, because there's so much about duel that becomes, you're playing the other person's mental state. You're understanding their movement patterns, and you're understanding, what makes sense to do on a map. But if you're coming at it with far less experience, far less practice, and just like raw mechanics and raw instinct, if that gave you something of an edge, I don't know if you've considered that at all, but it's just the thought crossed my mind just now.
I knew I played differently to the Euros, and I think the Euros were the gold standard back then. Definitely. I mean, no excess pain came second in 2001, but I don't think in 2002 people had rated NA to get anywhere. No. Like, enough demos had gone up, and I think that you'd seen the skill level rise between 2001 and 2002. But I do specifically remember watching the play styles online, and there wasn't many demos. People were being pretty guarded back then, right? There wasn't many tournaments, fewer lands. They wouldn't release demos. They didn't want to see, there was very few. So back then I watched way more Quake 3 demos. I religiously followed Quake 3. Yeah. I would sit up and watch like QuakeCon or do all that sort of stuff. So I probably took as much from Quake duelers. Yeah. The way they played versus the way that UT players played. Yeah. But I very much remember there was people would always wait for the second combo. So they would wait on a corner, like let's say on Leandria or wherever. They would wait on a corner. You combo, fake ball, second combo, then they'd always enter. And I hit Gitz, and there was no hit sounds back then. And I only saw in the demo, I think I hit him with like multiple combos on the third combo or on the paused combo. Yeah. And I knew, like, we were watching it, like, another friend and I, we knew that was their weakness.
Yeah.
That they would always come. Like, you know, they would just wait, okay, then we come.
Yep.
And I don't know why it was, because in our scene, that was not. Like, you would combo 3, 4, 5 times. You would guard the corner because there was some hyper-competitive or hyper-aggressive players in our scene. And if you didn't do that, you'd lose them.
Yeah.
It was a guaranteed way to control the map. So
well,
I thought that was a weakness. And so maybe it came from CTF because you would guard a corner. Like, you'd guard that section. You'd
that makes sense.
You'd try to hit the translocator. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense.
So.
Oh, no, it's fine. I was just going to say, I only want to comment that you mentioned to me before we started recording that you haven't played in a while.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. It's been 20 years. People are still falling for that. I do that all the time. I'll do one combo. I'll do a ball, not pop it intentionally, another ball, pop that one, and then on the ball after that, that's when you usually get them. It's because people are like, they expect to be some level of trickery, but you just like, they don't learn. Nobody learns. They just keep falling for the same stuff over and over again. Anyway, I did want to ask, and this is specifically from Court, but I promised him I would ask some of these questions. He mentioned to me that you have got a background in rock climbing, bodybuilding, weightlifting, this kind of stuff, where you've worked on your physicality. And he wanted to know specifically if you felt that maintaining your physical fitness was a net positive for you in competitive gameplay, because I've heard mixed results on this from people, and I want to get your input.
Well, yeah, I mean, I joined the gym from a young age, and that was actually between WCG 2001 and 2002. That was in some ways to keep some sort of mental alertness, mental sharpness, lack of fatigue. Even though at WCG 2002, my last 2 games were the worst 2 games that I played that year, because I just got so fatigued against, Shaggy and GitzZz. It was a bit strange, but it was looking back on it. But yeah, I do think so. I mean, there's nothing like actually being fit. I didn't do climbing or anything. I did strongman, which is very strange for somebody of my size, but I just enjoyed that style of weightlifting, logs, frames, cars, that rock, picking up Atlas stones and that sort of stuff. It's just another competitive thing for myself to channel. It's like, how heavy can I lift?
Yeah, that's great, man. I feel, and I recognize that I have a competitive part of me. I don't think that's what drives me entirely. I have a bit of a anything until I get the result I want kind of mentality. Like, I'll beat my head against a wall over and over and over again until I really figure something out. And I don't care if it takes me days, weeks, months, or years. But no, I don't know. It's there's something unifying about a lot of these gaming kind of mentalities where it's like, yep, you just got to get the thing done until you figure it out. I don't know if that's competitiveness or if it's a non-quitter's attitude. I don't know. I'm rambling at this point. Sorry, everybody. I do want to ask though. Go ahead. Yeah, if you have something to say about that.
I think that you can see a lot of competitive people. Like, I like watching sports, tops level. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, I'll start watching a sport because there's like a generational talent, like Shohei Ohtani at the moment in baseball. I just watch the highlights now because that's generational. It's like interesting to learn about that. It's kind of like you watch that Michael Jordan documentary. A lot of people think he was a bit of a dick, right, around him. But I think for a lot of us, or at least for me, a lot of his mentality was exactly the same as mine. It was just like, I would make narratives in my head to try to beat somebody or something. Like, I need to give myself competitive motivation. And it's the same for like Max Verstappen in Formula One right now. The way he goes about it is almost like an air of arrogance. There's an air of confidence, and there's a fine line between arrogance and confidence. Right. But I feel like, to have that humble champion like Shohei, very unusual. Right? It normally comes with something that is like really driving somebody for whatever reason,
Yeah. Oh, that's a great point. Oh, I do want to get your intake on this then. What do you think about other like modern kind of esports titles? Are you following those as well? Because I think a lot of the stuff that you're talking about is on display there. Or is it the kind of thing where like you've had your moment and you've kind of checked out from that scene?
Yeah, I can't say that I've watched much competitive gaming for a long time, right?
Yeah,
for
sure.
YouTube might suggest, here's some StarCraft 2 finals, I might watch it, or here's some CS2 finals, and I appreciate them, but it's not a scene that I I follow anymore, especially some of those model ones like Valorant and other things. Like I appreciate what they are, but I've never been a fan of like class-based games in terms of competitiveness.
Right.
Like I love to play a good battle. It's fun, you know.
Yeah.
But that's completely like going to the bar for me. It's just the most chill thing. You're just in there, just having a fun. Like playing it competitively. It's for me. It just doesn't hit that itch. So, and then also watching it. For me now that it's not that.
Yeah.
Not that fun.
What is your current like work life gaming balance? Do you play many games these days? It's because I have found with certain people who have that kind of competitive mindset, there's always going to be a little time carved out for it, that you always want to have it, because if nothing else, it's about keeping that mental sharp. It's about keeping that kind of desire and a methodology for practicing that sharp. Do you find that to be true for yourself?
I kind of replaced it with golf this year. So I just started playing golf for a bit of fun. It sort of went with my work and as well. And it was kind of, you know, was my massive challenge for the year. I just wanted to, you know, break 80 for the year in the first year, which is not something that normally people do. So, yeah, I started to just channel all my energy into golf.
Yeah. Like, you guys, you don't understand. There's this game that I played back in 2002. I know I can do this. Well, that's great, man.
I achieved my goal.
That's wonderful.
I'm very happy to say. So.
Yeah, look, man, I have no doubts now that anything that you put your mind to, you're going to achieve. I do.
Definitely not. I've got my limitations. I know that much. Like I tried to play Dota competitively for a little while, and there's no way I was going to get to. I got to what would be immortal rank, but no way I was getting to the actual 0.1%. That would be good enough.
I think with some of these games, it's like if someone wanted to try starting Unreal Tournament 1999 now, like the skill curve that you have to overcome to get to the point where you're decent enough to play with the people who are veterans of this game is such a mountain that, yeah, maybe you can do it, but at the top, will you really go that extra, 50% or whatever that's necessary at the very end to get to the very, very top? I don't know, probably not. But yeah, that's just
describing the problem. You're describing the problem with arena-based shooters and why they fell out of fashion. Yeah, because it aim to even enter, it's not fun when you don't get a kill. Yeah, there's no, like CS, anybody can AWP anybody. Like you're probably unlikely to do it to, but at least there's a big enough scene that the pros are over there, and then you can be, playing along, with people of relative skill levels. But in arena-based shooters, the communities were quite small, and it was impossible. It becomes impossible to actually even. Yeah, have fun.
I don't think that the interview has been debuted yet as of the time that I am talking to you, but by the time that your interview comes out, people will have seen that one. So I'm happy to talk about it now. But I was actually just talking to Carmack recently, and he described almost the exact same problem, is that arena shooters, broadly speaking, followed this pattern where they started to remove a lot of the difficulty in terms of the brand new player's experience, right? And made jumping into a server where you can actually get a kill easier, doing things that allowed you the ability to have successes earlier, because if you don't get new players feeling like they're successful early on, they're not going to stick around. And I think that maybe it's a generational thing. Maybe it's because we grew up at a time where there weren't that many gaming options. And so, yeah, exactly. I am happy to die over and over and over and over and over again to get one frag against that guy who's better than me, because fuck that guy, I can do it too, right? Like, and then once you get it, oh God, does it feel good? And then you're hooked and you want to do it forever, right? Like, I get that mentality, but I feel like that's missing. And maybe that is why, arena shooters just they're not happening anymore. They're not going to happen anymore. I think Diabolical was the last real big attempt at it. And it, had moderate success. It didn't boom. I don't know. There is a game, I will mention it. I believe it's called FRAGG, Frag, with an extra G at the end. But it is a modern UT movement and weapons inspired approach to a game like this. It's still, early access, very early development kind of thing. And I wish the guys all the best, but I do think that you're onto something. And I think that a lot of people have touched on this kind of feeling. It's just that maybe it's the player base these days. They don't seem that interested in overcoming that learning curve of, losing for long enough that you actually figure out how to get good. I don't know. I think that...
I agree. I think,
yeah, go ahead.
but that's where class-based to me, I've thought a lot about this, over the years, because I did play PUBG when it came out quite a lot, and have played some of these class-based ones. But when you're playing rock paper scissors, at least your rock is going to beat the scissors sometimes.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter how much their skill level is in some ways. Your class is counted by their class,
right?
And so you can do, you can get some of that success, or you can be supporting some of those games and feel success against the best players by just feeding health or doing something.
Yeah,
sure, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to FPS, arena FPS, you have to realize that it's literally just your skill level against the other person, their skill level. And if you don't learn the map and the weapons aren't given to you and you don't understand how to time armor and you don't do all that, to even get to a what would even be considered still a noob, you're probably even below a noob. You're somehow it's such a long road. And that was okay back in 2001. I don't think it was just because or 2000 that there wasn't many games to play. It's that we didn't have that reference points. There was the UT Bible that came out and that sort of stuff. Most people just played for fun. Yeah. And they didn't, right? They were, and even it's kind of like, it was just, everything was so much more just not serious.
Yeah, definitely. And it is interesting about what people gravitate toward that kind of mentality, because like I said before, I got introduced to this game through a friend of mine. He was playing low grav insta-gib maps, and that's where I started. That's where I got my hook. And I've told the story briefly. I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but I had a friend who was a Canadian player, and he introduced me to what he called normal UT, and I had never played small maps. I had never played codecs. I had never played with the amplifier. All of these kinds of things were novel things to me in 2001, 2002 when I had started the game. But it was around that time that I was like, oh, I kind of want to learn this. This seems more interesting and more compelling to me. And I had been exposed to the UT Bible. I read through that entire thing. I memorized movement mechanics. I memorized units of, size. All that stuff was fascinating to me. And that's what kind of got me into the more competitive side of actual Unreal Tournament competition. But I don't think
funny you read that, because I never read it. I knew it was there and I clicked on a few things, but I was very much a feeling-based player. For me, reading it, the only thing I learned from that, I remember, was that the pulse rifles had segments. So if you dodged towards somebody, you could pass through more segments more quickly, and you could do more. That was the one thing I remember.
And there's lots of great little tips and tricks in there. Now, 20 years of modifications to the game later, we have nerfed some of that, so that way the pulse beam does consistent damage all the way through, because that's a subset of sub mechanics that most people, even competitive players, aren't really aware of. And is that worthwhile to master? I don't know. But one of the things, and I still get upset about stuff that I learned in that Bible. For example, not too long ago, I was playing a duel with somebody, and I had it was on Codex, I had hit them with what I perceived to be a completely loaded goo gun snot rocket kind of fire, right? 454 damage is what it should do, I believe. 450 damage, something like that, which should instantly kill anybody, full belt, full health, whatever. And it lands just behind them. They take the full explosion and they live. And I was furious because I was like, that should have killed you. There's no way it does. I know how much damage it does. There's no way you should have lived. Anyway, too much information is a bad thing is my lesson here. Yeah, but I do think it takes a certain kind of mentality about players and who takes this kind of competition seriously. I did want to ask, you mentioned briefly other games. Were there any other games outside of the UT series, maybe venturing into Quake? You mentioned that you learned a lot from watching Quake demos. Were there other games that you not just attempted to play, competitively, but that hooked you, that felt the same in terms of that desire to want to play more and more, that you felt addicted to?
I mean, it's probably been like a few less serious ones, kind of like Path of Exile or Diablo 2, where like that's sort of a weakness.
Yeah,
I
still play Diablo.
I just
yeah.
And then World of Warcraft did get me for a while, and that was just because of the raiding aspect of it. You know, I actually didn't really enjoy the like leveling up grind and all that sort of stuff. But when you got into raids and having to do that sort of stuff, that was just that fun way to be competitive almost. You know, you're not having to play against other people. You know, although it did feel like that when you were raiding most of the time, as they keep wiping you. But and then, but from a PvP point of view, Dota, and that was more that all my friends could play it, and we all sort of started at the same time. There's probably a massive gap in our skill level, but we just queued and played together all the time. Right. So that was just fun, just to play and enjoy it. And I just enjoyed the way that Valve originally did the international. Like in the actual, you know, the way they had done that tournament structure and stuff. Now, you know, I really enjoyed it back then. I thought that was just a fantastic way to showcase players, and that was like, you know, for me, that was what I wish WCG and ESL Cup had been.
Yeah,
but not to say that. I mean, they paved the way, right?
Yeah, absolutely,
so
absolutely. Yeah,
that's the evolution I saw, so I enjoyed that aspect as much as anything. And then PUBG, probably when it came out, was really like, that was just something that, I don't know, it was probably around that COVID time, all sorts of other things happening. It was just like, it was super addictive until a lot of hacks came out, and that made it a feeling, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that there is, I don't know if it's just because I come to games later than I should necessarily, but I have this history of playing dead games. I just like, I came to UT99 in 2001 and started playing then. And I started to only really get good in 2003, 2004 when everyone was moving away to everything else. And then, all right, well, I'm already hooked, so I'm just going to keep playing. I don't know. I do think that the question that I want to kind of transition into, and I don't really have a solid segue here, but I feel like your competitiveness, your history of these different games, the winnings that you've had, and the success that you've had, because you were mentioning earlier, as we were starting, that you have a C-level position at the company that you work for, and I'm not asking you to, you know, out yourself in any capacity here, but do you feel like your competitive nature and the history of gaming that you have helped you in life outside of gaming, and what lessons did you take from it to get to those levels?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. My first corporate job, I used my gaming experience in that, and it actually went rather well because, you know, they'd ask, well, what experience you had managing people? I'm like, well, I led a 40-man raid.
Yeah,
it seems ridiculous. But I did have a way to explain it to them that it was, you know, I'm like, well, maybe not in this, but resources, people having roles, doing all these sorts of things.
Time management. Oh, yeah.
You know, all that sort of stuff, dealing with disgruntled people, dealing with hunters, dealing with all sorts of things. But, to me, a lot of it was a lot of gaming, and there's a famous quote about this, at least in New Zealand, which is like, you know, watching, I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but like watching professional sportsmen is watching people perform under pressure. And there's no difference for me. Like, you know, when I went to WCG and ESL Cup, I never got nervous in the actual game. Like, that was probably my biggest attribute, was that, you know, I had the normal skills, but I didn't get nervous because I wasn't. And for me, I've been able to translate that into a corporate world where I watch people possibly crumble in front of senior management or boards or those sorts of things. They hold them. And for me, it's just a person. You know, I wouldn't mind it. Like, if you were, it doesn't matter who you are or who I am. We're just humans and we're talking. Yeah. You know, and it's the same sort of thing. So I think from a competitive standpoint, being able to take feedback and going, oh, I'm actually pretty bad at that. I don't understand that. I need to improve that. That helps you in any role, right? And then from a confidence point of view, and just being like, you know, not having to worry too much about that, then if you can gain confidence from gaming, you can get good at something. I feel like you can probably get good at something else. You just need to apply the same. Yeah. Generally, you know, repeat. Right?
The willingness to learn, the willingness to put in effort, the willingness to kind of humble yourself before whatever it is that you're doing, to recognize, okay, there is something I can learn here. I think that that is a very transferable skill, and I'm glad you articulated it that way, because I feel like I relate to that. You know, I've got those elements of my life too that I feel like, oh yeah, I can see myself applying the same kind of set of skills here. So I'm glad to hear that someone who has had great successes in something that I also enjoy, namely UT, feels similarly. That I feel seen by you, sir. So I will say this, and I appreciate your time greatly. I've capitalized on your time for almost 40 minutes now. I do want to ask, what are your lasting memories? Let's escape from WCG. Now, I'm sure that those things are hugely important to you, but every player that I've ever met also has that little back pocket story of something that happened in a server one night, local server, and it's just like, I finally beat that guy, or like, this guy was my mentor. You know, what are the background stories? What built you into the player that you are, that you will always stick with you? That's not just the pinnacle moment. I know it's a tricky question. You may not have the answer right away.
Yeah, it's one that you have to think about. There's probably quirky ones, and then there was one that I remember specifically being on LAN and being accused of using center view back in the day. You know, it's normally disabled on service, you know, for that instant headshot. And I got accused by the person who had won the Unreal Tournament trophy for New Zealand. And I just remember he was standing behind me and he accused me basically of cheating, because we considered it a cheat even though it was a bind, right?
Sure, yeah.
You weren't, you know, use it. And I literally stood up, I said, use my keyboard. There's no center view. I wasn't using center view, but the fact that it was somebody that good that had said that to me, I just remembered that moment in my life where I was like, okay, well, you pretty much admitted that you think I'm cheating face to face in person whilst watching me, not online. So I do. That was one of those ones where I found that comical. On servers, I don't know. I think there was, because I did play a lot of CTF, right? I just remember one of my core memories was when we were playing UT2K4 CTF, and we actually took it pretty seriously. And we were practicing for the grand final, the one that there was the videos of, is that, and that was probably the pinnacle for us. Like that tournament was probably the top tournament for Australia, New Zealand, and probably the last one for UT in terms of a team-based one. Yeah, that we've been looking forward to. That just the camaraderie and the competition, and we had a whole pickup game scene back then, you know, multiple games running and all that sort of time, and just the community that came together back then. There was like probably about 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 players still playing seriously at that time, and that was just like a really solid, good feeling all the time. Like you can just get on, play some competitive UT. You know, we were doing drafts at the time, so the teams were actually balanced, much like, you know, some of the Dota 2 has done and high ranks nowadays. We were doing that back then, and it was just a really fun time to be playing. Like, you know, that was just
that's great, man.
Become a bit cool. Everybody knew everybody's first names. Everybody knew where they were from, what everybody did. It was and it was just so diverse. Our scene was extremely diverse. There was from farmers to like C-level execs, you know, to students to people that were on the dole. I don't know. There was just everybody was there. Do you think, and I actually think this might tie into something I was going to ask you earlier, do you think that has to do with the remoteness of the New Zealand, Australia kind of connection to the rest of the world? Is that you're so far from everything else that you kind of have to get along with everybody and anybody who comes along within that scene? Does that resonate with you, or were there still contentious characters within the scene where you're like, no, that guy's got to go, we're done with that guy? I was probably that contentious guy, but I don't know. I mean, even then, I think most people would have towed the line to a reasonable amount. I guess there were people that were more contentious in different ways. They would like, you know, there was a guy very famous in our scene. His entire family almost played. Like his son ended up playing, his cousin was playing, his brother was playing. You know, everybody was logging in from his family, and he would try to recruit everybody into his clan at all times. Yeah, sure. You get get a private message once a week. Hey, you want to join?
Yeah.
And it became such a meme that, back then, that there was even like, we had a person that would do rap songs in our community. They would write rap songs about him trying to recruit you. And
that's funny.
So, I think you are right that it is due to that remoteness. You didn't have much else. It was a very different online experience to today, where, I mean, it was still anonymous, but because we had to do LANs, because not everybody had good connections, or we did come together a bit, everybody knew everybody personally. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Whether they liked each other or not, it didn't matter. You couldn't really act out too far.
Yeah,
because then you would get
ostracized at least. Yeah, I mean, look, and without getting onto a political high horse, I actually do feel like that is something that is kind of missing from the world today, is that everyone's allowed to silo away into their own little internet hole, and you aren't required to interact with people as much as you once were, and so you aren't required to recognize that you might not be in the right about a lot as many things as you once thought you were. Anyway, I mean, people, I think, just like a lot less seriously back then in that way, or they were just... It was probably more old school values in terms of there was a lot more respect for if people had a problem. But we didn't talk about religion, politics, anything back then. Like it was all, that wasn't, because I think maybe even mainstream news didn't do the same thing they do nowadays that possibly polarizes people, which then feeds into that, right? Like there's probably a feed there that goes down, right? So we were in a blessed time in some ways. I'll share this story just because you mentioned that you had a little bit of everybody, and this guy's entire family almost played this thing. This is just a fun little personal story of mine, an anecdote. My current partner in life, her older brothers and her dad all played Unreal Tournament back in the day, forever ago. And when they found out that I played Unreal Tournament, they were like, "Oh, we should play sometime. We'll definitely beat you." And I said, "Okay, like if you'd like to try, we can try that." And so Christmas several years ago, we set up a little LAN in their house, 5-6 PCs or something. And I was like, "If you guys want to do this, we can do this for sure." And of course I proceed to just absolutely destroy. And they're like, oh, you're really good at this. And I was like, "I've been addicted to this game for 20 years. Like, you don't stand a chance. I'm sorry." But it was just one of those fun moments where it's kind of like, I have this skill that serves me no good in my day-to-day life, but I can pull it out every now and then when I need to, just to flex on somebody. Anyway.
That was fun. That was, I had the same reaction at WCG 2002. Mm-hmm. So I was playing in the training hall. I think the Romanians turned up at the same day, and I beat like a couple of them. Like it was maybe like 30 or 40-0. And they walked up to me and they said, "Didn't think somebody from New Zealand would be good at this game." And I'm like, "Yeah, we're across the other side of the world, but it doesn't mean we don't play the game."
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I have definitely capitalized on your time enough. I do want to leave the floor open to you. If there's anybody that you want to thank, or any stories that you want to share, any lasting memories that you want to call out, the floor is yours. Anything and everything that you want to cover right now, anything that you want to say, it's yours.
No, I mean, just thanks for doing this. It's brought up a lot of good memories for myself. There's plenty of things that I've thought about this since I was asked to do this a couple of weeks ago, that it was a good time, right? It's a good reflection point. I'm glad you guys are trying to get back some sort of community. I'm happy to participate if the time allows in some of the games online with the new zero ping stuff. But it was. I think what your team currently is exhibiting is exactly what UT was at its core back then. A small community of guys that were dedicated and enjoyed the game, right? Yeah. I do appreciate that. I mean, we could fill another 10 podcasts with stories from UT if you really wanted to.
For sure.
There's many last memories, many things that come to mind. But no, thanks for the interview.
Absolutely, man. I'm honored to have been able to talk to you. It's nice to be able to get to know you for a little while. And I'm happy to extend the invite anytime you want to play. We'll figure out a way to get it done. And anybody watching, it's been mentioned a couple times now in the past couple of podcasts, and again in this one, what has driven this interview series is that there is a new ping compensation tool that we have been using that is far better and far more natural feeling than anything that has come in the past. And it has afforded the South American, North American, and European scenes that still exist today to slowly start to merge together. And we are slowly starting to see a more truly global UT99 scene than has ever existed before. It's early days and we're still kind of building that up, but you know, it's weird to have a kind of excitement in the air about UT99 25 years later. You know what I mean? Like it's pretty crazy. And within that, we wanted to reflect a little bit and go back and talk to some of the people that made this game what it was today. Some of the people who inspired the people who were still playing, and, you know, bridge the communities a little bit. And within that, I just want to say thank you one more time for this interview. It has been an honor for me, and I'm so appreciative of your time.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man.